back to the highway. Other than running the highway through the empty and unused lands, the highway route movement also puts forth that the back roads in the area of Mondesi to Debe be improved. These back roads already do a wonderful job for the people in the area, but they cannot be fully utilized because of their sorry state. So much is already possible by using these roads, in fact, that it is believed that there will be no traffic problems whatsoever if they are fixed up and maintained. This new suggestion by the highway route movement, it not only saves houses and agriculture, but it also keeps communities intact. And it actually saves billions of Trinidad and Tobago dollars, which are the taxpayers' dollars given to the government. Does this sound progressive enough? Community plays an important part in the progress of any country, right? As the popular saying goes, only by dividing can we be conquered. We must remember that it's not only elderly people who will be affected by the government's proposed route of this highway segment, but it is also children who will be affected. Only if history is understood can we not be doomed to repeat ourselves. And there seems to be a lack of remembrance for the people who slaved away, toiling for the freedoms and comforts we have today. What would our forefathers, who were largely farmers, think of how we are treating farmers today? Trinidad and Tobago can possibly prosper from all the interest that is being put into being a lawyer or doctor. But tell me this, why is it that everyone has to run to it? Why is it that every parent has to push their child, even if the children have no interest in it, towards those fields? Are the children really interested? Or is it that the parents are pushing their kids into education and employment regardless of those child's interests? Are these fields being used for the progress of our country? I mean, after all, do we trust our doctors and our lawyers? Or is it all for name and fame? All of this needs to be properly understood if we really want progress. Some will say it's not connected. You be the judge. Now, much of the land in this area of Debe to Mondesi has to be destroyed. Do we understand that this very land has been in the family's possession for generations? The families who have lived there in these affected areas for decades upon decades, lifetimes upon lifetimes. Let's take this family, for instance, made up of an elderly man, his wife, and his blind sister. They have obviously toiled hard to build their house, and understandably would like to spend the rest of their few remaining years in that house. Wouldn't you show a bit more respect before bulldozing this house? These people are not unhealthily attached. After all, their lives have been centered on sacrifice. So, the sacrifice of their land and their property for the betterment of the entire country is not beyond them, unlike what most people who are not in that area believe. These are not selfish people. After all, these are people with something called common sense. Something modern man is leaving behind more and more. Common sense knows just how to discern between sacrifice and allowing oneself to be taken advantage of. Because there is a difference, Trinidad and Tobago. It's not the same thing. The people have said that they would move, but only if it made sense to. If they would be reimbursed and relocated properly, which has not been happening yet. The highway route movement's official opinion, though, is that no one should move at all. Both these opinions basically come down to the same thing. They want fairness. They want justice. Let's move into this further.
This government promised me that this piece of highway would not build. Munilal was the chairman for Big Group. Team Gopiting was with me. Prakash Ramadha was with me. Tell me this piece of highway is not going to build. Once we support the UNC, this highway would not build. I support the UNC with all the family and friends, vote this UNC, and the Prime Minister saying nothing stop this highway now. That is unfair to the people and my whole family.
The residents and the highway route movement have written to their ministers in the area for help. These include Stacey Rupnarayan, Chandresh Sharma, Winston Dukaran, and of course the previously mentioned Dr. Rudal Munilal. Unfortunately, they all said the situation at hand is out of their control, and therefore we the people should put all the responsibility on the current Prime Minister of the current political party in power. That would be the Honorable Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessa of the People's Partnership. At first, the Prime Minister said she would actually halt all construction on the highway segment in question in order to have a fair consultation first. But this has not ever come to pass. She said this on March 16th, 2012. Yet, bulldozers and tractors continued to enter people's property almost as if it was like thieves in the night. The highway route movement protested outside the EMA's head office on April 12, 2012. They demanded a proper copy of the hydrology report, which led to the Certificate of Clearance, or CEC, being granted. This was too much shadiness. Surely, they would show some kind of transparency, seeing the desperation of the people at this point. At least that is what we would expect, right? The people so far have not been dealt with professionally or had anything explained in detail. What did EMA do? Well, unfortunately, EMA CEO Dr. Singh refused them access to the supposed hydrology report that gave so much permission for tractors and bulldozers to start destroying homes. The CEO had the people removed from the property with armed police officers by force. Was there something to hide in the report? Are the EMA really even environmental? These are questions we would really want to ask. The EMA's Certificate of Clearance was granted 1 month before the general elections took place in 2010. Is this progress? Or is it politics? Did it involve money being used for personal profit concerning the elections? Or was it money being used for the people? You know, many people would call this conspiracy, but at this extreme point, everyone seems two-faced. The EMA, the Prime Minister, and also several ministers. Some ministers even going so far as to put words in other people's mouths. One minister saying the people welcomed the relocation, when that was clearly not the case. Who could be trusted? How could the affected residents maintain hope when all the people with legal power over the situation refused to even consider the people's proposals? They were completely ignored. May 30th, 2012. This date saw the Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessa attending an Indian Arrival Day celebration at a high school. The highway road movement, which is mainly made of residents from the affected areas, came to further beg the Prime Minister for a meeting. And of course, they came in a very peaceful manner of prayer, respect, and forgiveness for all that had happened earlier in this experience with her. Such forgiveness and willing to try to work things out again, that they had previously just attended the Prime Minister's People's Partnership anniversary. And yes, they did rally around the Prime Minister Kamala. That shows you just how trusting these people are. This time it was also mainly women who came out to the school to speak to the Prime Minister. But nevertheless, they were ignored once again. Now, how would you feel, Trinidad and Tobago, if this had happened to you? Your own leader, your own Prime Minister, who you voted for, turning her back on you. In a sense, we can see these women as the women of our nation, the builders of the family unit, the home, which is the foundation of the entire community and therefore the whole world. This seemed to mean very little to the Prime Minister herself, who just happens to be a woman.